Welcome to the Personal Trainer Hustle. Personal Trainer Hustle. If you didn't know, you do now.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the Personal Trainer Hustle. Your host, Sam Lopez here. And today we're continuing the Q&A episodes. You guys have sent in some questions that I have taken a little while to get to. So we're going to keep knocking these out. Normally, I like to sprinkle in some, just lessons or tips, strategy type episodes as well. But because I don't want to keep getting these Q&As backed up, some people have been waiting a while to get their questions answered. So today we're going to continue down that path. Questions that you guys sent in to personaltrainerhustle.com. We get to them, we turn them into an episode. Today is one of those episodes where we get into those questions. For anybody that wants to send in a question and have me answer it on one of the upcoming episodes, go to personaltrainerhustle.com. You guys can send in your question right there. Okay. So today's question is sent by Sydney Carlile. And Sydney's question reads, I watched Glenn Ross. I'm not in sales and am in the very early stages of wanting to become a virtual nutrition/weight loss coach. I'm currently a zookeeper and wanting to start a coaching business as a side hustle. What advice would you have as far as starting from scratch at 35? Okay. Let's get into it. Okay. So Sydney, thanks for sending in today's question. And I have 5 points that I want to make today to, kind of get you on the right path, thinking the right things, doing the right things. And so that is where I'm coming from with today's episode. Okay. So 5 things to consider when we are thinking about starting any type of virtual business, but any business at all. So it's going to kind of jump around, but stay tuned. I've got 5 points I want to make for anybody in this situation as well. So number one, first point that you want to make sure that you have is you want to actually set up your business in a way that it actually is functional. Okay. So what happens is a lot of the time when we think about starting a business, when we're considering, just like you are right now, you're starting to think about a virtual business. What happens a lot of the time is we get stuck in that thinking process because we want to make sure that we think about everything, or we want to make sure that we're ready to start, right? So we think, I'm going to go for it once I'm ready. But the reality is business never happens when you're ready. Business happens day by day, little by little. Think about it almost like exercise happens, right? Or sometimes I even compare it to like a child's growth into adulthood, right? You never really notice when it happens because it happens over time. So to think that a kid would say, well, I'll be as tall as I can be when I'm ready, or, for somebody to say like, oh, I'm going to start working out once I really figure out how I'm going to do it. We fall into the same type of thinking when we start thinking about starting a business. We think that there's some magical day, some magical moment where it's all going to click, it's all going to come together. And thinking like that is what keeps most people out of ever having a business. Because I guarantee you, anybody listening right now has had a business idea. Most of us have an idea of something that we notice in the world that we think would help people, we think would be needed, or an invention, something that would change things or help a certain group in our community. Everybody has a moment like that. The difference is some people simply begin that venture and some people keep waiting on the sidelines. That is going to be a big, big factor in you actually getting going. Just starting to put things together is going to be one of the biggest steps that you can take in starting this side hustle, is literally starting to do something about it. Hopefully just sending this question in maybe makes it more real, right? Maybe hearing me, seeing me here actually address your question. Hopefully that is going to get you going, right? And thinking okay, I asked, he's answering it. I need to move forward. Maybe you do one of the things that we talk about today, but that's going to be the most important thing, is understanding that business is built brick by brick by brick by brick. And most people, because they're looking at the entire vision of their business, they never really start with like, just like if you guys ever have seen like a stadium, right? They break ground. They have a big celebration where they break ground, and it's literally just a photo op for people. And either the owner or people in the teams, higher ups, owners, people, the CEOs, even some of the team members, if they're celebrities, they do the whole ceremony where they hit the ground with the shovel, right? But that is literally a representation of the very first step in building an entire stadium that hosts thousands and thousands of people. It all starts with breaking ground, right? And so most people don't want to go through the process of the little things. And so, number one, for me, the advice I want to give you is start with the little things in order to start building the foundation for which you're going to build upon. Right now, you may not know how to get clients. Right now, you don't know if it's going to work. You don't know if you're going to fail. That's just a risk every business is going to take. You don't know if you're going to be able to find clients, if your advice is going to work, right? There's a lot of doubts, and that is unknown for everybody. The only thing that you can be certain of today is if you built a website. The only thing you can be certain of today is if you put together a contract, if you created an Instagram or a YouTube, if you actually created some recipes for your nutrition coaching, if you actually have printouts or emails that you can send to somebody, right? So here today, right now, I would ask you, if I called you, and I've done this with a lot of questions that I get sent in the past, right? If I emailed you back right now and said, hey, I want to get started, I want to lose this much weight, what is my nutrition plan? Do you have the first step that you would take me through, right? Is it a consultation? Is it signing up for sessions? Is it signing up for a monthly membership? So I'm asking all of this to say, number one, if you're thinking about doing this, begin to build the foundation of what this is going to be built on top of. And do not worry about the next steps until you've started doing this. Why? Because what happens is we run away from the work, right? So building a business is actually building the business when nobody's watching. Okay. So it's not the flash, it's not the videos, it's not the posting, it's not the logo, right? Because a lot of people think, okay, the logo, right? I'm going to work a lot on the logo. The logo doesn't matter that much. Okay. Logos become known logos based on the brand and the quality and the marketing and the endurance of a business, the marketing strategy, the sales strategy, the branding strategy, right? Then any old logo becomes a well-known logo, even if it's not the best. Also, in the beginning, you have plenty of time before the logo really matters. Like for my gym, first we started with no logo. We had clients without a logo at Logic because I just got a name and I opened the doors. I don't know if I've ever told the story of how that happened, but it was just like I had to act fast. And so I just put a name together. I put an LLC together, launched the gym because I didn't have time. It wasn't in my plans to have a location that quickly. And so I got the location. I never even thought about having a logo. And I started getting a couple of clients, and then I figured, oh shit, I need a logo. I drew up a logo. I got a friend of mine to make it look nice and make the files work so I could put it on t-shirts and on flyers and things like that. And then after a while, as the gym grew, I realized this logo, I feel like we're kind of outgrowing my first iteration, so I came up with a new logo. But I'm saying this to say that, like, no matter what the logo has been, or even when I didn't have a logo, I still got clients. So the logo is important, but just I'm harping on the logo, but it's just like one of those steps where people get stuck. They think that the logo is the brand and the logo is the business. The business is the business, right? What is your nutritional plan and advice? What is your weight loss program? What is it? How do I pay for it? How do I sign up? How do I renew? How do I get results? What is the dynamic? What am I actually purchasing, and how is it benefiting me when I decide to purchase? So you have to put yourself in those shoes before you start. And this is one of those thoughts and practices that every business person has to have. And I'm sharing it with everyone right now. As a business person, you have to think about everything that happens before, during, and after you get a payment and a new client, right? So before you have a customer, you have to think, okay, these people don't know me. What can I do to get them to know me? And then you imagine, right? You think, okay, if somebody decides that they like what I'm doing, where do they go? How do they get more information? How do they contact me? How do they sign up for this? Let's say somebody was like, oh, I really want to sign up right now. Have you, as the business person, put it together to streamline them having to purchase it? Or do you have a page where the phone number is not there, or where they don't know what they're supposed to do because it's not very clear, right? You have amazing logos, you have amazing pictures, you have amazing videos, but people don't know what to do. They don't know where to sign up. There is no process of signing up. And we forget that that's the whole point of having a business, is to have something to make it available to people, to make it easy for them to acquire, and then to fulfill that service in the future, right? So you have to think about the entire process. And a lot of us aren't thinking about that. So my first point that I wanted to make today is just to think about um, putting your steps together, right? People are going to want to go to a website maybe, or a social media page. So have we set that up ahead of time? People are going to want to make a payment or contact you, or things like that, right? So have we set it up? Is the business at least functional? Even if you have no customers, could you sign up a customer and service a customer if a customer magically appeared tomorrow, right? And we don't think about that, right? But that's the very first step, is just build the business, right? Build the product, like have something before you market it. You first have to build it. This was built and designed and thought out and priced and they it tested. By the time we saw commercials for this, by the time they put a price on this, everything was figured out already. And obviously, then there's the next phase, right? I purchased it, but now they have to upkeep it. Now they have updates on it. They add features to it, right? So there's, again, building the business, building the marketing, allowing for me to purchase it, and then the service continued afterwards. So that is a business. And I would say step number one is begin to build it. Don't worry about where the customers are going to come from yet. We are going to get to that in the next points, but just think about, do I have a legitimate business even built yet? Is there a specific service, a specific need, a specific person that I'm trying to help with what I'm trying to do? All right. So that's just something to consider. Point number two, you're going to then begin to decide what channels you want to use to promote yourself, right? So at the end of the day, once a business is built, people need to find out about it. Okay. So you right now are in a great position. If you haven't started it yet and you're not sure what you're going to do, you could begin to do what a lot of people do right now, which is to begin to build content. Okay. So content is just like this podcast, right? I get on here and it's completely free and it's of value to somebody. Okay. So you guys listening, you guys follow the podcast because I get on here and I share something, right? So you need to begin to do something like that for your business. Now, for mine, I'm not going to invite you guys to come to my gym, at least not yet. And even if you did, it wouldn't be for a workout because you guys are trainers, right? So I'm speaking to the choir. But eventually we're going to start having workshops and things like that. And you guys are going to have the opportunity to come in based on first finding the podcast, right? Because I'm super transparent with everything, you guys. This stuff is not tricks and gimmicks. It's just the reality of life, okay? So right now, currently, one of the best ways to market anything is to have a content channel that you build an audience around, right? You have followership around. And so what you want to do right now is decide, do I think that having YouTube, a YouTube channel where every week or every two, at least every week, once a week, but twice a week, whatever, a channel where I can, give some advice to people in order for people to want to follow and listen to me. And then I can sell them, workshops, or I can sell them, just like a higher level, um, business idea, like a higher level service or product, right? So you can say, hey, if you want to come and do a specific, I don't know, detox thing or whatever, I don't want to like suggest that we do gimmicky stuff like that, but you can write a book and then sell the book to the people that have been following you, right? And the reason why I thought about this is because right now, since you haven't really started the business yet and you're thinking about it, I think that creating content around the idea, around the thing that you want to sell, um, would help, because it would help you get your idea clear, right? Like clear out what it is that you sell, clear out who it is that you're talking to, begin to see if people are into your ideas, right? So it's a safe way to start seeing the reactions and to see and validate the stuff that you're talking about, right? Your nutrition plans, your weight loss ideas, right? You can begin to kind of talk about it and see if there are people out there that are interested in what you have going on. Now, it's a lot of work for no pay, but you begin again to build a foundation for what you look to build in the future, right? Let's say you amass a lot of views, a lot of followers, a lot of subscribers. Well, now let's say you have whatever the number is, 1,000, 10,000, whatever, because if you're going to go virtual, then you can go a lot wider. Um, Now you are going to feel confident that, okay, I can start now. Like, people are going to want to be part of this. I can literally market it to the same people that are following my page. The thing is, though, that itself is almost like a business, but for you, starting as a side hustle might be a great thing to do, is to start to create content around it, because you still have your zookeeper job, right? So you can begin to create content around it. I just thought, even if you wanted to, I know this is kind of weird, but maybe you can find a way to use your regular job to get people to watch, right? So you can be the zookeeper nutritionist, right? So then you can kind of like use the animals and your environment and something that's so unique, specific to you, and then kind of like start branding the thing that you want to sell. Now, it's kind of weird because they have nothing to do with each other, but I'm just kind of brainstorming right now and thinking maybe you can use it as an advantage to build a following. And I don't know, I'll leave that up to you if you want to do that, right? Because I think being a zookeeper is something very unique. It's not a job that a lot of people are going to have, right? Most of us worked either at a restaurant, or as a driver, or, at a coffee shop, right? Like, these are normal jobs that every person growing up kind of has. Oh, hold on. I'm getting a package delivered. All right. All right, we're back. Sorry, guys. Had to go get the Amazon package. Just in case. I figured I might as well just stop this and keep going. But the point is, back to the point, is you can find a way to use what you do because it is unique. That's all. That's the only point I was going to make. And for anybody listening, it's something to consider. If you have something going on that might be unique when it comes to creating content, sometimes having that thing that pops out and gets attention, is a good way to like build off of that, right? That way you don't look like everyone else when you're making content. You have something that maybe is a little bit different. So if you can think along those lines, that would be good. But going back to what I was really trying to get at with creating content, right? Number one, you can build an audience and then you can market to that audience. Now, what you want to do when you think about this is think about who you think most benefits from what you're trying to build, and then what channel they're most likely to be on. Okay. Because when you start, you're not really going to have the bandwidth, especially if you have a job that you're going to already. A lot of people try to do too many things at once, right? So managing a Facebook page, an Instagram page, a TikTok page, whatever else, YouTube page, it becomes too many things, and we end up doing nothing right, right? Building an audience in any category requires a lot of investing of your time, your consistency. It is like a secondary job. Once you decide to build a following, it becomes kind of like a job. Even with you guys, right? I feel like, man, I have a responsibility to get on here. So sometimes I'm running around, I'm figuring out stuff I have to do for my actual business in my gym. And then I'm like, okay, you need to sit down. You need to give people something, because you have decided to take on this responsibility, and you understand that consistency is important, and people are kind of waiting for the content, and even if they're not waiting desperately, they're going to notice if you don't do it, or at least stop paying attention to what you're doing because you're gone, right? So when you guys have Instagrams, you guys have YouTubes, that inconsistency over time is why it doesn't work. You really have to commit for a long time to just be consistent, and just allow the momentum to catch up and start to build and be on your side. So those are things to consider. Now, it doesn't have to be only content creation. If you are not going to build content, which in this day and age, it's a little bit of a tricky thing to do. This is a little bit more advanced, I would say, in a way, and a little bit more old school marketing of a business. But you can use all of these same channels to kind of like pay to advertise on. So what you can do is actually advertise on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. You can pay for your ad to show up on people's feeds, and you can set up, you can record your ad, talk about how you can change people's lives through this specific weight loss or nutrition program, the benefits of it being online, the benefits of what the things that you can do for people, your thought process, your unique idea, whatever it is that you do, you can just advertise. Okay. But the thing is, in this world, we get advertised to so much that it's very hard to stand out with an ad, right? Most people, anybody listening right now, what do you guys know happens when an ad comes on? We can't wait for that skip button to pop up. We hit skip. I don't want to see this ad, no matter how good it is, right? I always actually pay attention to when I see an ad that actually catches my attention. If there's ever an ad where I watch it all the way through, or if I'm watching sports on TV and there's an ad that makes me laugh or makes me look up the thing that they were advertising, I'm like, okay, there's something about this ad that's unique, because it got me to look, because most of the time I ignore all the ads. I don't want to hear it, and neither do most people. So that's why I said it's more advanced and trickier, because you have to be very good at making an advertisement. If you're not going to create content and you're just going to put ads out there, you have to be very good at making ads, or your idea has to be unique enough or solve a big enough problem for people that they're going to click on it because it's really speaking to them, and not because it's just another ad of the same old thing, right? And especially in that weight loss nutrition space, there's a lot of competition, even though I think there's still a lot of room in nutrition itself. And hopefully I get into some of those reasons why. But nutrition is one of those spaces that I feel like people are almost like slacking in, and they're allowing big companies to come in and kind of take over markets that would be better served by the community. So actually, since we're here, I might as well talk about it. Yeah. This is a point that I've made to a couple of people that I've met over the years that want to get into nutrition. Now, I don't know if you actually want to just do nutritional advice, or focus more on the weight loss, which I guess goes hand in hand, or even meal prep, which is a lot more work. But again, because this is an episode for everybody, I'm going to put this idea in here right now. In nutrition, listen, this is something that I say all the time. I have had a gym for, man, like 7, 8 years now. Not once has somebody come in, and I'm just plugging this laptop in. Never once has somebody come into my gym and offered nutritional coaching or nutritional, what do we call it? Meal prepping for my members, right? Like that's not a service that I provide. And also, something that I haven't looked into, right? We have suggestions that we make to the clients, either to their nutrition or, we say, hey, this location here, but it's usually like a corporate type of location, right? So I just look around, I'm like, okay, this resource is there. This is somewhere you can go, right? Or even between the clients, we say, hey, this client used this nutritionist, you can go to them. But you guys, anybody that's in nutrition, anybody that actually does it right, what's great about this is where your customers are. I always say this, like when you think of an idea, if you can think about where your customers are, you can go directly there. So people that want to lose weight by changing their nutrition are probably at the gym on a treadmill trying to do something about it, right? So you know what they're thinking, you know where they are. You can put yourself in that line of business and be something adjacent, right? Like just be fitness adjacent, right? Nutrition is such a huge part, but most people, they have a hard time. They're not educated enough. So what do? They join a class, they join a gym membership, and they think I'll just outwork a bad nutrition. But if you can be the person that steps into that spot and in your community, you can do something about it. You can have relationships with gyms. You can build a business that way. So, and let me see. Yeah, that's going to be my next point here because you can do it. Well, let's get to number 3. Point number 3. I already started kind of talking about it, but it's called boots on the ground. Point number 3 is boots on the ground. Okay. So just continuing on this same thought. Why is point number 3 boots on the ground? Well, because like I was saying, you know where your customers are. Weight loss customers, nutrition customers, more likely than not, are already doing something about their health, right? So where do people concerned about this go? They go to the gym, like I said, they go to nutrition shops, they go to healthy food options around, right? Like somewhere that I like to stop by that's been a favorite place of mine is Every Table, right? So shout out to Every Table. I've never talked to anybody at Every Table other than the workers, but it's legitimately a place that I feel like for the price gives you enough healthy food. It's on the go, right? So whenever I need to grab something on the go, instead of getting something that is going to be more on an unhealthy side, I just decide to stop by. So some of your customers are also going there, right? It's a bit of a competition, but at least you know where the customers are going. So boots on the ground means that the beautiful part about doing something like this is that you can pinpoint where your customers are because, and this is the point I wanted to make, just because you're going to be mostly doing things virtually doesn't mean that you can't go out into your community and actually speak to people face to face, right? Or even if you're going to expand beyond that, you can still make phone calls, right? So the internet exists. You can sit down, look for local places that you want to connect with, have affiliations with, where your business may be able to help their business. And you can just begin making calls and say, hey, this is who I am. This is where I provide. This is my business plan. This is what I'm offering you. This is what I would want in return, right? Because here's the thing, everybody, I always say this, everybody wants to be in business until they have to do business things, right? So this is business. Business is sitting down making phone calls. Business is having a script. Business is coming up with a contract or at least some type of program where you're involved with local businesses or communities or schools or things like that, right? Schools is another thing that you can link up with when you're doing something like this. So whatever your idea is, all I'm saying is boots on the ground is you don't have to only resort to building a channel and having people find you. You don't have to pay for advertising online. Sure, your business is going to primarily be online, but that doesn't mean that you can't and shouldn't make real personal connections with people. That's something that people online miss all the time is waiting for the entire world. You're a small fish in a giant pond of the internet. And so having the idea that if I build it on the internet, it's going to work, unless you're one of the very few that have that in them, or you have a very special product, more likely than not, being found on the giant sea that is the internet and all of the competition, it's going to be a little bit difficult to be found, right? That's why building your own channel is one of those things you can do. But also another thing you can do is start from your current location and expand out, right? So whatever, let's say you go to your local businesses and you talk to them face to face. Even though the service is online, you can still make real connections and go wider and wider and wider. Once you have exhausted your local community to where you can get to walking distance or driving distance, well, now you can start now going to the phone calls, right? You can't really get there, but now you can resort to making phone calls and expanding your network of people that you actually at least talk to, right? Maybe you can set up phone calls with them, virtual sessions with them. Maybe you can offer something to like the business owners or the leaders of schools or things like that. You can do a lot of different things, but I always want to remind people that even though we live in a digital age, even though everything is online, you can still meet people, you can still walk up to people, and that increases the chances of somebody wanting to work with you, somebody wanting to hire you, right? Because a lot of people aren't going to find you on the internet, but if they met you, they would be interested in it. So you have to put yourself in front of people, especially in the beginning of a business. It's too risky to just hope that people find you online, especially when you don't have that business experience. It's going to be hard for you. It's going to take a long time for you to figure out how to have people find you, and not just find you, because, if you're hot enough, you can just take your clothes off and be found. But are people going to go on and purchase your products, your real business? And is that business going to be able to someday possibly expand beyond you if you are no longer the face of this business, right? So that's just thinking about business differently, right? So that's just how I like to think about it. I like to think that I think of business actually like business and not as a popularity contest. And a lot of people think that business is being popular, business is being famous. Business can be those things, but it doesn't have to be. Business is simply a product or a service that people want to exchange dollars for or currency for. And as long as you can do that, as long as you have something that people want to give you currency for, that's a business. You got it. And it doesn't have to be famous. People don't have to know your face. People don't have to whatever. And so when I think about it, I think of ideas that are going to be able to function even when you're no longer the face of it, if you can do that. So again, just things to think about. Number 4, who needs you and why? Okay, so a while ago, this is an old episode, but I looked it up to make sure that I mentioned it here. Episode 24, I talked about the pros and cons of being an online coach. So once we're done with this episode, you can go to episode 24 for those of you guys that are new listeners. Maybe you haven't gone that far back, but on the podcast, right, either through Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can find the early episodes. And episode 24, I talk about pros and cons of online training. And one of those points that I make is who needs you and why? Because one of the questions that you have to really ask yourself when you're going to be doing something online is this, am I doing this online training for myself because it saves me time because I can do it from home, right? I can sit here and do it. So am I doing it for me, or am I doing it for actual people that I believe need this service, right? So it's just a question that I need you to ask yourself, because a lot of people think about having online businesses simply because I can work from home. I can do it on my time. I don't have to drive. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to pay rent for a location, right? So it's me, me, me. All you need to do is to be able to answer this question. Do I solve a problem for someone? Can I truly solve it online? And as long as you can say, yes, I have a problem and I know I can solve it online, or even better, it's actually more beneficial to solve it online. than to solve it in person. Or there's just no difference. I could do it online or in person. As long as you can say that, yes, the product and the service stands alone as something that somebody will benefit from, regardless of how you present it, then you're going to be good. Then, then you get to the heart of the matter. And that's really what matters to the person purchasing it. Why is this point so important for me to make? Is because I really believe that most people are missing the mark on their online coaching, because really they started online coaching for the benefits that it brings them as the coach, and they're not considering the benefits or the lack of benefits sometimes that may happen because they're doing something online, right? So for online personal training, as long as you're a good enough trainer and people really benefit from it, and a lot of people prefer it, then you're going to build customers. But what I find is most people go and look for a coach in their neighborhood, or they want a coach to come physically to their homes. As of now, maybe as things change, people will want more and more online trainers or more AI training or something along those lines, right? Things change. But what I have found is that, you know, working out through a video at home has been around for a long time, since we had VHS tapes, since we had DVD players, then we went on to YouTube. And yes, there are a lot of people that work out at home online, but the gyms are still full, the studios are still full, and people are still hiring coaches, trainers, boot camps, instructors, because there's something about being face to face, getting those corrections, getting that motivation, getting those adjustments, that online people don't feel they're getting the same benefit from. So, um, again, that's just for you to judge. Can you really make a product or a service that it doesn't matter that it's online, or even better, that is more beneficent? Yeah, more beneficial online. Um, and that can be true. You just have to know that, right? So you can talk about online, you save time, online, you have access to me, or my videos 24/7, right? Like maybe you have pre-recorded lessons, you have recipes, like whatever it is that you make available, that the online aspect of it actually makes it better, right? So, and then you hone in on that and you talk about that, you market that, and you make it known so that people can see, oh, having an online nutritionist, an online weight loss coach, whatever, this is really, really exciting, So it's all about you thinking about it, though. There's no right or wrong answer, but you need to be real with yourself and understand why you're doing it. That's the most important thing. All right, point number 5. Yeah. Point number 5 is stamina and grit. That's all I wrote down. Okay. So any business works because the person that does it keeps going. Okay. So right now, one of the hard things about your situation, and anybody in that same situation that has a full-time job that wants to start a side gig, the hardest thing about starting a side gig, you guys, is that you have a safety net built into your life, right? So when you're starting a side business, you don't really need the money from the business, and you don't really need it to succeed. And you really aren't putting yourself on the line, which is great, right? Because putting yourself on the line, it's high risk, it's high anxiety, right? When I did it, I put it all on the line. But the benefit of putting it all on the line is that you have to rise to the occasion. And what happens with most people that start side gigs is that there is no pressure, right? Like the old, the diamond example, right? Diamonds are built under pressure, right? It's kind of the same thing. When you don't have that pressure, you don't fix the problems you have to fix. When you don't have the pressure, you don't start. When you don't have the pressure, you don't get out and meet the community. When you don't have pressure, you don't make the videos. When you don't have pressure, you just shrug and say, well, maybe next month I'll get a client, right? When you don't have the pressure, it's very hard. So I'm not saying that you have to quit your job and start. I would never suggest that. Do not do that. It's too much of a risk. But what I will say is you have to tap into your grit and your grind and your desire, and you're going to have to work harder to keep that business at the front of your mind. Okay? Because when your business is your only income, you're always thinking about it. Okay. And you're always worried about it. Right. I think about my business 24/7 because that is how I eat. Okay. That's my business. I don't have something else that I do. So that's number one. But I feel it all the time. When it's a side business, you don't always remember it. You don't always feel it because it's just kind of a hope for most people. It's just kind of something that would be cool. So what you need to do is hack your system, right? One of the best things you can do is have your goals up in front of you where you can see them every day so that the wall or the poster or the whiteboard reminds you that you need to be working on this, right? You're going to have to build in that reminder to keep going so that you do something every day, right? I've talked about this before. I heard it from a client who I think learned it from a book. But I love applying this. No 0 days. What that means is you don't let today go by without doing something for your business, right? So if you can do that, you're going to chip away, just like fitness, right? If you had a client and you said, hey, just work out 30 minutes every day, even if it's just walking, but don't let the days go by without working out. That person would begin to get better. And as they lose weight, they might enjoy working out more. They might extend it to 40 minutes. They're going to have research. They might join a class. They might get a personal trainer. They might change their nutrition, right? The consistency then builds that momentum with other benefits to it. With business, it's the same thing. You want to just work on it a little bit, even if it's just work on the website for 10 minutes, put a price plan together, hand out one flyer at a local business, make one phone call today. But you need to work on it every day, and you need to have that grit, that perseverance, that stamina, that desire. And that's going to be one of the hardest things. Just know that. I need to just make you aware of that starting a side business for most people is very difficult because you don't have to do it. It's just a want, right? And having to do something and wanting to do something, there's different levels, different degrees of like desire and work that goes into a desperation that goes into it, right? When you have to do something, you're more desperate than if you just want to do something. So you have to figure out ways to keep that at the top of your mind. I think one of the best things to do is when you have a vision for like, I want to make this impact in my community, or I really believe, or I want to see somebody transform their life through my product or my service. When you have that thought process, the desire to help people is also going to drive you a lot. You can tap into it from different ways. If you've one of the best things you can tap into is if somebody doubted you. That's, man, a lot of people, unfortunately, in our culture today, we have turned into like victims and complainers, right? Where somebody said something negative about us and we just internalize it and we tell that story to everyone, and that's why I suffer, that's why I have problems, that's why I can't get ahead, right? The system is against me. My teacher didn't believe in me. People look at me in a bad way. People don't believe in my services or my ideas. Okay, we've turned into people that like listen to that and believe it. But if you're going to have a business, you have to be somebody that says, I'm going to prove to you that I'm not what you think, right? That's how we change the world. That's how we change perspectives. That's how you change your life. Life, we're not going to have a lot of time on this planet, right? And I just can't believe that people spend the very, very little amount of time that they've been given on this planet to spend it complaining about things that other people think and do about it. For me, time is too finite to worry about them. So all I have is the time to make my life better. And there's not enough time to make my life better and complain and send negative messages and start fighting over whose opinion is right or wrong, right? Like, all I know is I have a mission to make my life better and make my dreams come true. So if you have a vision of starting this side hustle for yourself, and it's important to you, then see if you can tap into that and say, hey, I have one life. I have to make this happen, right? It's going to fulfill my soul, it's going to fulfill me knowing that I did it, or that I at least tried to do it. It's a very good feeling when you see your ideas become reality. You know, My gym, at first, it was just an idea. It was an empty room. I was the only trainer there. I didn't have clients. And now, there's a staff of trainers, which I wanted in the past. There's clients there. We updated some of the equipment. When I started, I didn't even have enough for equipment. So it's a good feeling to see things become reality, but they start in your mind. When I started this podcast, I knew you guys would be listening. I knew that you guys would send in your questions. I was like, there are people out there that I think could benefit from this. So I'm just going to put it out there and let the rest happen, and then when it does, again, it fulfills you, but also it increases your belief system. When you're new to business, when you're new to putting these projects out there, you haven't done it long enough to see how things work, to see that consistency does pay off, to see that creativity does work, to see that caring about the customer does work, to see that, you're going to make mistakes, but that's just what happens, right? When you're new, you haven't lived through it. So every time something happens, it's new, or it takes the wind out of your sails anytime. But then, when you're more experienced, you realize like, oh, that's just going to happen. It goes up, it goes down, it goes left, it goes right. That's just what's going to happen. But find a way to be motivated. Maybe you can prove somebody wrong. Maybe you can just prove yourself right. You can do it from a place of gratitude as well. If somebody helped you, if somebody believed in you, you can tap into that as well, right? If somebody believed in you when other people didn't, do it for them, to honor that they helped you in that moment. Honor that maybe they sacrificed their time or their money to put you in a position where now you can begin and start your own business, right? Because not everybody can, not everybody is in a position to do certain things. So if you've gotten help, you can use that as a motivator too, right? So you can be motivated by people and your gratitude to people. You can be motivated by showing people that you're not the thing that they thought that you were, that they judged. And you can also be just motivated by your desire for a better life. If your business was to work, how great would your life be? And if you can imagine that and keep that in the front of your mind, that could be enough of a driver too, to say, hey, doing this right here, right now is worth it, because it's one step closer to the life that I think I may be able to create for myself. So that could be a motivator as well. And you can also be motivated by impact, right? This will be the last point. You can find motivation every day by the impact that you're actually going to have in people's lives if you make this a reality, right? So think about the 10 people, 20 people, 100 people, 1,000 people whose lives are going to be better, and they're going to be grateful to you and also pay you and build your business for you. But because you did it, other people can say, my life is better because of you. So just find motivation somewhere. Why am I making this a big point? Because it's very hard when you have a job and you don't have that fear of failure sometimes. You got to find it. You got to find it, because business is working every day for a long time for no pay until that equation flips and you start getting paid for your business. But it's a process that you have to go through. So just a word of advice and experience. But Sydney, thanks for sending that question in. I appreciate you sending in the question. Like I said, I've got some other Q&As that we're going to be getting to. But I appreciate everyone that listens, sends in the question. And I think today's episode is going to be the first face-to-face episode here on YouTube. So we're going to start the YouTube feed too. Anybody that wants to go and do the YouTube, you can do that. I mean, it's really just me sitting here, nothing fancy or crazy. So you don't need to do that. But I just know that some people don't use podcasts apps and they just watch everything on YouTube. So I figured if you're one of those people that it's just easier to use YouTube, it's free, it's fast, it's consistent, it's easy, then hey, we'll do it on YouTube now as well. And anybody that wants to go and just support Personal Trainer Hustle on YouTube, man, just hit a like just to kind of start getting this thing getting off the ground. But either way, we've been doing this for a while. I know you guys are listening on the main podcast platforms, right? Spotify is the one that I normally use, but I know a lot of people use Apple Podcasts as well. Those are the two big ones. So if you guys are listening on there, keep listening. Hit a review if you guys want. If you haven't done it, and all the time you've been listening, yeah, you can increase the reviews. It really does nothing for you, but it helps me. So if you guys want to share in just saying, hey, thanks, and let your voice be heard. When I see those reviews, I always, feel like, okay, that's really nice, because you don't have to do that, right? So when you do that, that's really cool. And if anybody would support, once we start this YouTube channel, you can find it. It should be under the same name, Personal Trainer Hustle. I haven't even really put that together, you guys, but as I'm recording, I know I'm going to do it. So hopefully it turns out okay. But yeah, you guys can find it there. Maybe it's easier to share on YouTube too. That's another reason why I think we should do it. Is more than anything, I think it's just easier. Most people use it, so you don't have to figure out, okay, do you use Apple? Do you use Spotify? You have a Galaxy, da 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 da. You have Samsung phone. It's just easier because I think YouTube is just, easy to share, and use, and more people use it, I think, than any of the other apps. So, there you have it. Episode 112, Q&A with Sydney Carlile. All right. We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.